Breakaway civilizations. What's it all about? We're going to find out in today's video at Newearth.land, where we are decommodifying shelter, energy, food and water and making those things basic human rights. Why? Because we can. We're spinning around on a little rock in space. And so therefore, why not? Let's do what the government should have been doing. Anyway, on that note, we're spinning around on a microscopic rock in space. And around that little rock in space is another little rock in space called the moon. We went there, right? And there was nothing, so nothing to see here. Just carry on. Just carry on with lives, working away in the society of indentured servitude. Whereas they have a society that is creating that indentured servitude and these psychological embryonic conditions through which we're living our lives. So we're not expanding our minds into the state of consciousness that they are in, which is actually what we call Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, Christian spirit. Not maybe that to that extent, because of course they are lacking a lot of empathy, compassion, but they have definitely been stimulating the Ajna chakra and the third eye chakra. What do you think all those photos of these celebrities are about with the one eye, right? What about this one? What about that one? What about this one? What about that one? And that one. And old Greta Thunberg's at it as well. What is that all about? Let thine eye be single and our whole body will be filled with light. They understand the philosophy of the ancients. They understand the psychology that all is mind, the universe is mental. They are operating a higher level of consciousness from humanity, and that's how they can get away with psyop after psyop after psyop after psyop after psyop. And humanity just cannot believe. Hence, remember Adolf Hitler said, the bigger the lie, the more they'll believe it. And bringing in the Nazi part here, because this is ultimately what's driving behind this so-called breakaway civilization. Because in the 30s, Maria Orsich, this woman who was sort of like a witch, if you like, was channeling entities, elementals as they're known in esoteric circles, I'll have you know. And all this information, she was being downloaded with all this information about how to build basically anti-gravity ships, UFOs as we would call them. All this information is being downloaded, and that was therefore going into the intel of the Nazi party. That's why they had these incredible technologies. Of course, a lot of them are not public domain, but they had incredible scientific endeavour and inquisitiveness. And so for that reason, we, throughout Operation Paperclip, brought them over. You know, we were supposed to have just defeated them. Of course, we did physically, but psychologically, we didn't defeat fascism in the 40s. We actually adopted it. And Werner von Braun himself, who was a top-ranking Nazi scientist and rocket engineer, became director at NASA. What's that about? I thought we were supposed to just defeat these guys. Don't bring them over. You can check all that with Annie Jacobsen in her book, Operation Paperclip. They were given passports. So some of them went into South America, and there's actually a show called Hunting Hitler. People still believe him to be around, or perhaps he died in the 60s, 70s. All of history is a lie. It's just his story. And we all know that the victors of a war write the history. This is what's happened. The true history of humanity and this planet is so much more incredible than we've been taught, and we'll be talking about that in more detail in future videos. But throughout the 60s, 70s, we start going to the moon. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it. So why do they bother staging the second one? Okay, why not show us what's going on? Why aren't there all these cameras out in space now? The dark side of the moon. What's that all about? How can the orbit of the moon perfectly match its rotation so that we have this whole concept of the dark side of the moon? What are the chances of that? Well, I believe the moon is actually a natural satellite, but it was artificially placed by a higher intelligence that we might think of as extraterrestrials. Do ETs exist? We made a video on that. Check that out in more detail. I'll put it up there somewhere. The point being, though, ultimately, is that there is a breakaway civilization in operation on this planet. There is a huge gulf in intelligence between us and them, because they did not sever the left and the right brain hemisphere in their approach psychologically to reality. They married the left and the right brain hemisphere. They spiritually and scientifically understood reality. So science and spirituality were not disparate fields. They brought them together. And they were understanding, they were experiencing directly these psychological phenomena that we call channelings, which are going on all the time with people like Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, Bashar. And in the Law of One, they talk about this Orion group, right? So if you check that book out, I recommend that. It's sort of like a PhD in spirituality, if you like. We need to get rid of this word spirituality, though, I feel, because it obviously has gives rise to a big knee-jerk reaction in people. So let's just talk about like esoteric science. But ultimately, that was channeled by, I think his name was Don Elkins, although I might have to edit that in post, can't remember his surname, and Carl Eckhart. And amazing information there if you want to learn more about it. And the point of this video really is to not tell you there is a breakaway civilization, this isn't something happening, is simply to sort of like float the idea, bring it to people's attention for them to then double click on it and find out more. Because remember, as Albert Einstein said, condemnation without investigation is the height of folly. So I'm just trying to sort of raise attention and awareness of things. And remember what Arthur Schopenhauer said as well. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, if I can do that with my finger, it's accepted as self-evident. So the fact that this is such a fringe sort of like woo-woo crazy topic is because many people aren't talking about it. Of course, they're not going to talk about it in the mainstream media because that is all absolutely controlled. So, you know, if we're dealing with a breakaway civilization, don't be scared though. Keep calm and carry on. And we'll be making more videos about this breakaway civilization in the future. Of course, I can't really talk to all of the things in this video, but the point is for them to create this huge gulf in intelligence, and then they spoon feed us the technologies, and they're trying to get us to follow this sort of like notion of AI incorporation, so that we are going to be consumed by technology. This is the agenda, the despotic agenda of the 2030 or Agenda 21, however you might know it to be. It was originally the Millennium Project, but they had some delays, and so ultimately we need to get are more savvy and more vigilant, because we are getting owned from a high level of consciousness. Humanity has unfortunately been placed in an embryonic state of consciousness, just like they show you in the Matrix. They just want to complete the job and make it totally a tangible, like physical reality, where you are absolutely consumed in a reality, inside another reality, and in a reality, in a reality. And that's already the case for many people. But anyway, that's it for this video. Do check that out in more detail. Of course, I don't want you to believe a word that I say, so simply find out for yourself. And if you do so, let's talk, let's subscribe, let's connect, let's write in the comments, introduce yourself, and we can have an interesting conversation, because ultimately this whole channel is about raising human consciousness, because then we can solve the problems that we're faced with. Both our personal issues and our social collective issues can be reconciled and alleviated, but only when we come together. So that's what we need to do. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. We'll talk more about the breakaway civilization and who they actually are. And when we look at this structure of capitalism, I think that person up on the left, he looks a bit like a banker, right? So I'm thinking the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the JP Morgans, who really is this group of people? And, seemingly they are owning the establishments and the politicians. So we'll talk about more of that, in the future as well. But anyway, for now, thanks very much for watching this video. And, do watch this one if you're interested in learning how to attain enlightenment. Do watch this one if you're interested in learning about aliens and stuff. So anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.